Hello and welcome back to another week in new genre books. Thanks for stopping by. We're so glad you're here. My name's Amelia, and from Locus Magazine, I'm about to tell you the top new science fiction, fantasy, and horror books being published the week of December 6th, 2022. Please like and subscribe. I know it's easy to tune out and think someone else will do it, but it keeps us going. Also, please go check out our Indiegogo fundraiser for Locus that is running for another week or so. We are a donor-supported magazine and need your help to get us through 2023. We have lots of good donor swag like signed books, author chats, there's a Locus coffee mug, a t-shirt. Check it out. The link is in the notes below. Anyway, books. We like them, we want to know what's coming out, let's talk about it. I've got links for timing if you want to skip to your favorite category, whether that's science fiction, fantasy, or horror. We love them all. Starting with science fiction books this week, we have 7 SF titles being published. From Derek Koonson, we saw Flight from the Ages and Other Stories, out from Solaris UK in trade paperback and ebook. This is a collection of 2 novellas and 4 long short stories, visiting many worlds of the quantum evolution universe, as well as a few new worlds. Next up from Lily Brooks-Dalton, we have The Light Pirate, out from Grand Central in hardcover ebook and audio. This is a near-future SF story of a Florida woman's life from her birth during a hurricane to adulthood in a world changed by rising sea levels and drastic weather. Up next is Nathan Tavares's A Fractured Infinity, out from Titan Books in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is an SF novel. A filmmaker is kidnapped from a remote cabin by scientists because a machine that predicts the future shows him helping build the machine in a parallel universe, and an attempt to reach into that universe sets off a series of disasters, setting up a dubious moral framework in which we are responsible for some crap some version of us did in another dimension. Okay, let's go. From John Van Stry, we have Summer's End, out from Baen in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is an SF novel. Newly graduated ship engineer Dave Walker, wanted dead by his powerful stepfather, takes the first berth he can get on an old tramp freighter serving questionable ports in the solar system. You know, I have to make a pun about this. Any port in a storm, even a questionable port will do. Don't look a gift port in the mouth. From Denise, Crittendon, we have Where It Rains in Color, out from Angry Robot in trade paperback and ebook. This is an Afrofuturist SF novel. On the utopian vacation world of Swazembe, Lailela has been named the rare indigo, beauty among beauties, but becomes infected with a disfiguring disease before she can enjoy her new fame, and then she starts to hear voices and develops a new power. From Pedro Hoffmeister, we have American Afterlife, out from Crooked Lane in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a near-future SF apocalyptic disaster novel about an undocumented Mexican teen in Oregon, searching for her mother's body after a massive earthquake and flood, with no relief efforts visible and cultists forcibly converting all survivors. Lastly, for science fiction, we have Neodymium Sacrifice from Jen Finelli, out from Wordfire Press in ebook. This is an SF novel, 3rd in the Neodymium Chronicles. Jay Behrens struggles for freedom, and Lem Banzaran tries to escape her destiny while an old rival is poised to take full control of the galaxy. Just when this stuff comes up, the philosophical question here, okay, indulge me. Does taking over the galaxy stuff, like, how do we know who runs the galaxy now? How do we know we can do any better? Next up, horror. 2 titles this week. First up, from Luke Dumas, we saw A History of Fear, out from Atria in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a horror novel with psychological and possible supernatural elements about a grad student in Scotland who said the devil made him do it, and then some other even darker stuff happens. Look, sorry it's vague, I don't want to spoil it for you. Next up, from Rachel Harrison, we have Bad Dolls, out from Berkeley in ebook and audio. This is a collection of 4 horror stories exploring themes of body image, complicated female friendship, is there any other kind, heartbreak, and hauntings. Finally, let's get at fantasy books. I've got 14 new fantasy titles I'm going to tell you about that are coming out this week. First, from Michael Moorcock, we have The Citadel of Forgotten Myths, out from Saga Press in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel in the Elric Saga series, set between the first 2 books in the series in the early days of Elric's wanderings. From Rebecca Gomez Farrell, we have Wings Unfurled, out from Meerkat Press in trade paperback and ebook. This is a fantasy novel, 2nd in the Wings Rising series, begun in Wings Unseen. Lady Sarah's second sight has dark patches, sending her to the king only to find the royal family in disarray, and I want to hear more about the dark patches in her second sight, because what if those are retinal tears? You don't want to mess around with that kind of stuff. And how do you heal dark patches in your second sight? Moving on from Melissa Barron, we have Twice in a Lifetime from Alcove Press in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy time-slip novel of parallel realities. A woman gets messages supposedly from her husband in the future, trying to prevent her suicide. From Alexandra Pierce's review in the December issue of Locus, Isla has moved away from Chicago after a breakdown. She now lives in a tiny cottage outside St. Louis, working as a graphic designer and figuring out what life can look like. A few months in, she receives a text message addressed to Buttercup, to which she kindly replies, "You have the wrong number." This starts a text message thread that gets weirder as the other person insists it's the right number, and they turn out to know a great many details about her life. Isla is understandably disturbed by this, and she eventually stops answering, but she doesn't block the number, meaning that the sender can text again, and does, all of which sounds like the beginning of a horror novel, but instead it's where the romance starts. The sender claims to be Isla's husband. Next up, from J.J. Fisher, we have Calor out from Enclave in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel, first in the Nightingale trilogy. 62 years after an apocalypse, a new society trades in memories and nostalgia, but magic can manipulate memories or even erase them. From Simon R. Green, we have Haunted by the Past from Bain in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy mystery novel, 11th in the Ishmael Jones series. Lucas and Penny investigate the disappearance of a coworker. From Lauren Elliott, we have Steeped in Secrets out from Kensington in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a paranormal mystery novel. Shaylee Myers inherits a tea and psychic shop and discovers a talent for reading tea leaves and solving murders. From Melissa Landers, we have Lumara out from Hyperion in hardcover and ebook. This is a young adult fantasy novel. Talia, once scammed by a mystic, is dismayed to learn her boyfriend Nathaniel is a mystic with a powerful and secretive family, which makes me wonder, how do you find a good mystic these days? Do they have Yelp reviews? From Rebecca Ross, we have A Fire Endless out from Harper Voyager in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel, the second in the Elements of Cadence series. The Isle of Cadence is thrown into imbalance when the spirit of the North Wind makes a bid for dominion. Next, from Mara Rutherford, we have The Poison Season from Inkyard Press in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult fantasy novel. Lilo risks her community by saving an outsider from the dangerous waters around their island. From editor Sean Speakerman, we have Unbound 2, New Tales by Masters of Fantasy out from Grim Oak in hardcover and ebook. This is an original anthology of 17 stories. Authors include Kristen Britton, Brian Herbert, and Kevin J. Anderson, and Tamora Pierce. From Sam Sykes, we have Three Axes to Fall from Orbit US in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy adventure novel, the third and final book in the Grave of Empires trilogy. When her magic was taken, Sal the Cacophony made a deal for vengeance with a dark power, but now the price of that deal has come due. Next, we have The Cuckoo by Leo Carew from Orbit in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is an epic fantasy novel, the third book in the Under the Northern Sky trilogy. Two fierce armies collide in a final battle. From Mark D. Jager, we have Homecoming's Fall from Solaris UK in trade paperback and ebook. This is a fantasy novel, a standalone addition to the After the War series. Embittered war hero Auric Blackblade comes to the aid of Doctors Cat and Fisher to stop another evil power wreaking havoc across their war-torn land. Lastly, from Gary Kilworth, we have The Wild Hunt out from Newcon Press in trade paperback and ebook. This is a fantasy novel, an Anglo-Saxon saga. Wrongfully accused of his father's murder, Osric flees his homeland, vowing one day to return in vengeance and claim his birthright as King of the East Angles. And I think it is a character flaw of mine that where my mind goes from there is geometry puns. Like, why not an acute angle or an obtuse angle? The King of the East Angles. Who really wants to be king anyway? Don't we all just want to find an angle that works for us? 90 degrees. 90 degrees is a pretty good angle, parallel to the ground. Know your angles. That wraps up this week. Thanks for spending some time with us. At Locus, we want to tell you everything relevant that's happening in the science fiction, fantasy, horror publishing space. We appreciate your eyes and ears, and your likes and subscribes. We are at Locus Mag or at Locus Magazine on most platforms. And remember, we need your crowdfunding support this month for our 2023 year. If you like what we do, please go check out our Indiegogo fundraiser right now. Get yourself some donor swag like rare signed books, author chats, story critiques, t-shirts, acts of whimsy, so much good stuff, and show a little love. This magazine and this YouTube channel are a labor of love. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Come back and see us again soon, and we'll be here next week with more new books.